I think Hill Street was an industry-changing show in a number of ways. It took the police procedural to a new level. The shooting style of the crowded rooms was very different from what we had seen in many places before, many instances before. The large cast of characters, the way the stories were woven together, and again the serialized part. There were running stories that were part of the procedural that would go on for weeks and weeks, actually through the whole run of the show. And some of those issues around gangs and characters and people who would recur weren't resolved. And yet at the same time you had the interpersonal kinds of stories which were really woven into the crime stories, into the professional work, because you could see how each influenced the other. The love stories, but stories like Ray, who wanted to be, be promoted and wanted to be and was always there. The Hispanic Latino guy, and then you had Hill and Rinko with all of their byplay and everything that would go on, and you had the sergeant. Let's be careful out there becomes a catchphrase, but it meant something too. And when you saw him do it differently every week, you realized that these were characters that were so fully developed. And I think that all of that plays into it. And of course behind that are the Bochcos and all of the Frost and all of these people there. David Milch, who I think of as one of the truly great writer-producers in the history of television, starts there. And you can just feel the intensity in the scripts in that the story where, I think it's called Trial by, I can't remember the title of the episode, but that ends with Frank Furillo getting out of his car and going into a confessional booth in church. Those kinds of things, which are clearly narrative surprises in one way, but in another, what the show did was make clear how choices and actions do have consequences, and that you can follow those consequences in a piece of fiction that goes through years, and that fiction is a powerful part of our lives, and that they did that so well. And then we turn and we have St. Elsewhere, which does the same thing in many instances, but has this layer of humor that just, how do you survive being a doctor in a hospital like that? And this is how. And so you go on to ER and you go on to these other things. And so there's a kind of legacy and a heritage that comes out of those shows. And for me, Hill Street is the progenitor. It's the one that starts that. And it does all the things I said in 1974 television should do. Damn it.